Good morning.
Good morning.
Mhm. I'd like to honor the tension. Not tension as we would normally think of it, but tension just in our words. As that slight tug that has us respond.
Mm,
That slight tug has a history, has a background, is full of what we've been told, our expectations, the past. Speaking and listening. Tension that's built into the language so that when we're aware of it, we can use it, use tension to flow. This was just a simple example, but it's always there. And both of you were in a version of tension. Would you share what that was? What it was like, how others might have noticed it, might give attention to theirs. Craig, would you start? Notice there it is again.
yeah.
After a question. It's different though this time.
Yes.
How so? Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, it's there, but it's really subtle at this moment. The tension is there. It's an anticipation. A premonition. That's not an event, it's more of a state of mind. As in something's coming, something's approaching, pay attention. Or attend to what is approaching. And just as I said that, there's a coyote that just ran across the street. Morning. Morning. Yeah, it's really subtle.
Yes, it is. And
I'm noticing, I'm noticing without it having to be forceful. To me, that's a gift. Subtlety is reassurance that that it doesn't take a major concentration of energy, like lump of energy, in order to get my attention anymore. So quiet my being and hear the energy, hear the subtle. Wow, it's really fascinating this morning.
So Craig, it's like to feel the subtle pull or this subtle push. Now, how I can uniquely relate to that, as you said good morning to several people. And more than likely, it was an automatic response back. So the tension is automatic, meaning, oh, I acknowledge you, you acknowledge me. And we can go even before that. It happens to me. I see someone over there. I can either acknowledge them or look away. Walking into the grocery store, I can be looking down or I can be looking into others' eyes. I can say good day, hello, good morning, or I can stay silent.
Or what I got here was, did I respond from a learned response, or did I pause and respond with intention
Bingo.
in it? Yeah. Yeah. Or did I just say hi just because that's what you do?
So subtle, so subtle.
Guess we're paying attention.
And giving attention. Because the automatic responses don't stand out, aren't remembered. Are forgotten. As they just blend in with all the other ones. And that just makes everything, everyone, every interaction just normal, mediocre, and common.
So we're talking stop and respond with intention.
And that's paying attention. That's giving attention. No saying how that is going, how that changes something. But the more that purpose, that intent is weaved into our life, into our every action, the chances are better.
Creations are perhaps more sustainable like that, right?
Yeah. Good morning, Melissa. Big question. Is the most obvious hole in it. It goes back so far. Okay. Our histories as a child asked the question, what do you have to do? Respond, give an answer, get it right, prove something. And all of that limits the creation, the newness, the possibilities, the becoming intentions, the becoming potential. Not right, wrong, good, bad. Just amplifying or contraction. Simplest way to try that is someone asks you a question, stay silent. You create all sorts of tension. In yourself and in the other person, the one that asked the question. And then you can look at where's that coming from? What is it doing? What does it want? What's that tension producing? And you can begin to see where it comes from, what drives it, even though it's been automatic.
As you were talking about questions and children, I was thinking about the tension there often is between the child and the adult in terms of the level of energy sometimes. And hence often the response is, you ask a lot of questions. Or, can you please stop asking so many questions? Or just the command, stop asking so many. All those different tensions. And even the tension with encouragement of the questions. There's also a tension there. Intention, I guess, basically like you were saying, allows creation, makes space for it, right?
Mhm. You speak often, see the creative tension or problem solving tension.
Yeah.
And the problem for most of us is that we don't know one and we're so familiar with the other.
Uh-huh.
We only
Yeah.
know the one way. We only know the problem solving. We only know the limiting. Know the one way. And we're not even aware, not even paying, we're not even giving attention to it.
Yeah. So your kid asks you a question and you assume that you're the one that's supposed to answer it.
Yeah,
You're the one
exactly.
that's supposed to solve the problem, right?
Yep.
I wonder what it would be like if your kid asked you a question and you said something like this. I don't know. Let's find out
Yeah.
together. You know.
And tones are not just necessary, and the answers are not just words, they're also tones.
Yeah.
Just just in the way we say I don't know, will trigger that child, that response. Cinderella, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning,
Mm.
Cinderella.
It's good to hear your
Hey, little
voices.
Cindy.
Yeah, she's here too.
Yep. Yep, she is.
Allison, it's been a while. God bless you all.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we've been able to be on the same time.
Yes. What
So
have you been playing with today? What are you guys talking about?
we've been, well, where you came in was just about children asking questions, and because Jessie was talking about tension and attention and intention. And so I'll just share something quickly. When I first met Bruce, he told me about a story with his uncle on the farm, where he was about 3 or 4 years old. And he said to him, Roddy, where do we go when we die? And Bruce says he remembers there was a very long silence. And then his uncle said, oh, I don't know, Brucey. It's a real poser. And Bruce remembered that for all, all these years. I find that so interesting that when you're that young and you ask a question and you remember that answer, that tells you how much intention tension there was in the question for the child. Like he must have asked that question with every single cell in his body wanting to know what happens when we die.
And it's a real poser.
Yeah, it is a poser. I think what I also observed, and I should ask Bruce about this actually, I've never asked him, but what I observed with Bruce sharing that with me was, and then watching, you know, obviously I've been living with him for 30 years, is that specific, or the energy of that question and the energy of the answer was something that, I don't know how to put this into words. It was almost like it was a recipe for him. Like you often just don't know, and that's okay.
What I'm getting at 3 years old, he was closer to the authentic truth of that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the metaphysical aspect of life was definitely, it's, you know, it's been very present in his life.
In his frame of reference.
It's like if you don't know where you go when you die, you sometimes also then don't know where you are when you're alive, and that's okay. And
So where are we?
yeah.
Yeah, so was the question really, where do we go when we die? Or was it, where am I now? The subtle question under the question.
Where did I come from?
Yeah, that one too. That one too.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, that one too.
Why am I here?
Then Marvin Gaye put it in a song. What's going on? I want to know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Sing it, Marvin.
And I think, I mean, now that I'm talking about it, I think that's what makes him so good with improvisation. And he has an enormous talent of being able to translate that for other musicians. The ones that are open to learning from him. He makes that space available.
So who was Bruce? Introduce me.
He's my husband.
kind of got that. Okay. But I still don't know him. Introduce me to who he is, how you know him to be.
Oh, so now that feels like a huge question.
That's a real poser.
So what's the
Tension.
question underneath the
Tension.
question?
Tension.
I feel like I'm asking, how do you experience him to be? But who was he really? That he's not being who he is. And I don't know where that came from, but there it is.
Wow.
I know where it came from, but it
Isn't
just
that
came.
true of all of us?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll take a pass on that. It's too much for my brain this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, amen. But I think even to that, like you know what that and all those answers are, just like we do know where we come from. We do know where we are. We just don't have the words yet to
Correct.
regulate the expression of that would be worthy
Yeah,
of the answer.
spot on. Very well described.
So I just want to send love to your thoughts of Bruce. I want to braid love, that precious healing oil and the oil of joy in your thoughts of Bruce and your knowingness of Bruce and your connection of Bruce and your electric of Bruce. Just want to pour love into that, into all those areas, and excitement and fortitude and aspiration and integration and peace and sparkling eyes and big smiles and jumping jack hearts. God bless all of that, the renewing and the restoring and the glowing, and even in the moments that are boring, not boring, but heart soaring, and reflection with no rejection, and aspiration and collection of memories with no needed direction. Mm, yes, we give love. We give love.
Wow, little Cindy speaks.
That was really beautiful, Sandrell.
Yeah.
Beautiful love poem. Absolutely sublime.
So if we're not ready to explore the answer, could we explore the question?
Go for it.
Cinderella, I heard you say, how do you experience him to be?
Mm. Yeah. Well, we. I don't want to focus on Bruce, so I'll just focus on entities of people as
Yeah.
we are. Um, you know how a parent can look at a child. I'm gonna say grandmother, an endearing grandmother. So a grandmother is someone who has lived some time. They've been a child themselves. They've had parents, some guardianship over them. And then they see a grandchild. And in that grandchild, they'll see hints and aspects of characters that they've known before, whether through bloodline or just through their experiences in life. And so when you look at somebody and when they look at that child and they see that spark of divinity, the creativeness in that child, and how that child can do the littlest undefined thing, and it brings the grandparent joy. And it's what that child is being that the grandparents see. It just is.
Mm,
Who is the child being? It just is.
mm,
So as adults, us looking at each other, and especially when you have two people that come together in a romantic relationship or deciding to live together, is you see that being in that other person. There's all hope, all joy, all aspiration, all spark. It's like we see the best of that person, of what they are to us and what they bring out in us. So who is that being when they're being something that brings a playground of being in me? And so
mm,
when these two coagulate, when they dance that dance, it's like, who were they being? Now we know sometimes that honeymoon phase is not always renewed continually, and life does its thing. I was listening, of all things, to a Tyler Perry movie, and it says, when you get to that stage in a relationship, especially, for example, a marital relationship, and you get to a certain age, you're at that age where your children are growing up. They they smelling themselves, so to speak, and the parents are getting older and need your attention too. And you're working a full-time job. And so you're running your household, raising your kids, have a relationship at home, barely hanging on because you don't get a chance to really be the beingness with each other, and helping take care of parents and other responsibilities. And then you still got all of this stuff, political community ramifications going on. And you kind of stop being and you just doing.
mm,
So that's that rough patch. But if you're wise enough, if you just happen to be in tune enough to know that stuff like that is coming down the pike, you can prepare for it together. And you can go into the room and shut the world out and just be who you are, and remember who you are in innocence, in love, in peace, in character that has no beginning and no ending. It's that centering, being able to come back to that place where you feel most like you, where you are restored, where you're replenished. And when you have someone to share that with, it's a reciprocating re-engagement. So that being who can reciprocate and receive, who are you being? That's the being. where there's no question of trust. There's no question of integrity. Like you might have to go down the road tomorrow morning and cuss dogs and kill hogs. But in that space, it's like most genuinely, who are you? And being able to cultivate that, much like us coming here. This is a place of bees being. So when the grandparent can look at that child and just see that child just being, just as inquisitive with playing with rocks and dirts as they were if they got on were an astronaut and went to Jupiter and Mars. Just being. And the grandparent can recognize that in them and may be the only person who recognizes them when they get into their teenage years and talking crap back to their parents. When they take a job that they don't like and quit, and everybody else is like, why you give up that good job, you know?
Mm.
But the grandparent can always love them through every trial and tribulation and turn and knock and bruise, and their good characteristics showing up and their crazy characteristics showing up and their unrecognizable characteristics being expressed. But that grandparent, it knows the beingness of that child. And so when that child, as a child or misfit teenager or joyous teenager or troubling, going through trials and tribulations, young adult, old adult, when it looks in the grandparents' eyes, they remember who they are. Because the grandparent can reciprocate that just with a look. Because of the energy that the grandparent saw that child in as a being. And what that child gave to the grandparent was reviving. And so the grandparent can innocently give that back to the child at any stage. And even if the grandparent goes on into another realm, somewhere, when the prodigal son came back to himself, he came back to his being. That child, now an adult, can come back to themselves and choose who they are being. So who are you being? Who am I being? Mm.
The design of the structure of families is so perfect when we allow it, right?
It is.
Because it's true genetically too. We actually have a much more genetic similarity to our grandparents than we do to our parents. So it's also a DNA thing.
Sandra, when you were talking about that spark of recognition, so my one brother who's a grandparent, his son immigrated, and so they went back home for a holiday after, I think it was 8 months, and their oldest was then 4. So I was asking my brother what it was like when they went to get them at the airport. And my brother said, the first thing that came out of his granddaughter's mouth was, do you have the strawberry ice cream in the freezer? And I said, because he's a very good cook, you know. So I said to Mike, oh, that must have been the best homecoming ever. And he just burst out laughing. He said, I was terrified that she'd forgotten all about my cooking. And it was, you know, it's exactly as you described it, right? That spark of joy that they so obviously have between each other. It was a really beautiful image that I could have in my mind and heart about their reunion. It was like there was no time had gone by for her, accepting that she needed to have strawberry ice cream. It was summer and that's what she needed. And it was Mike's strawberry ice cream, which of course is most important of all, right? That reciprocation. I hate to have to go, guys. Have a great day. It was lovely to have you, Sandral.
It's lovely to
Bye,
hear your
Allison.
presence too, Allison.
Thanks so much.
Something came up for me, Sandra, while you were speaking. Are we relating persona to persona or soul to soul, heart to heart with people? Or does one drown out the other one? You know?
Talk more about the persona. What do you experience when you're relating persona to persona?
Persona to persona is your self-consciousness or who you think you are or who other people say you are.
I think that the spark of divinity is pure, and it can only really be perceived by another spark living in their divinity.
Yeah.
It sees past the persona. It sees the persona, but it sees the divinity. Like I remember one time being on the line and Jesse was talking more about the geniusness of us. And, you know, it calls it to the surface beyond and through and regardless of the persona. Sometimes those things have to be called out. Do we just always naturally know that because we live the persona? We live the persona without even thinking about living the persona. So we have to intentionally be in places and spaces that relate and regard in divinity. beyond divinity. And before this work, I didn't really relate in super consciousness. Now, when I lose things, I just ask super consciousness, where is it? Oh, you don't want to show me today? Okay. It'll come up in time. It's okay. It's cool. You want to be like that? All right. What are you thinking? Fred, what are you thinking?
Yeah, we started this conversation today about looking at how we greet each other. And so I'm kind of mulling this question around about, was that my persona that greeted other people, or was it my heart? Because right at the top of my awareness was that you kind of reciprocate, you kind of send an equal response back to somebody. And it was interesting today before we started discussing this that I noticed that I paused a bit before I said anything. So that's kind of, I'm noticing a new habit that I'm learning.
So when you're pausing, are you like making sure or checking where you're coming from? Are you coming from a persona, or are you coming from your heart?
Yeah, it's like a quick question. Yeah, where do I want my response to come from? And then make a choice, right? Instead of just instantly throwing something out there that matches what came.
All right. I get it.
Yeah.
But we're so limitless, we're so limitless that I just wouldn't want you to discard or negate the dimensionality of your divinity.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I saw so many aspects of myself this past weekend. And I didn't inhibit, I just played in my heart. I intentionally made sure I was playing in my heart, no matter where I was. I was the energizing bunny in some places. I was the muse in other places. I was the prayer warrior in other places. I was the facilitator intentionally driving people to a place that they was kind of afraid to go to and get off with like eternal assurance that they were worthy to go to hell and come back and know that they would be all right going there and coming back. And that was, I knew what my intention was, but I never done that before. Right. And it wasn't a persona, as in I'm just gonna be faithfully getting them to do my will. So when is a persona a persona? I think it has to do with intention. If you just do things to just for fakery, to show up, like I'm here, I'm present, the party can now start. That's one thing. But when you come to bring joy, and not to really give it, but to be it, so to choose to show up in joy, that's not persona. Like my cousin used to say, it just is what it is, girl.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Along the lines of, say you're a parent. You're a parent of a child, and so you relate to that child through the role of parent. So that's an example of what I mean by persona. So the thing is, if you relate to your child as a parent, you're relating through all the biases that role contains. It contains a lot of preconceptions and it's also what you think, what you happen to think that role means. And so, are you relating to your child through that role? Like, I'm the parent, you're the child, or are you relating as in, I'm a human being, you're a human being, and allow our hearts to communicate with each other, allow our hearts to relate to each other.
I can only say what my experience was, is that I was living multi-dimensional personas. And as a provider, I didn't really go deep. I did make sure I allowed to be with my children heart to heart. Our playful times are this, that, and the other, but I still had to keep order. And my kids never gave me any problem, thank God. So they looked to me for wisdom and guidance and order and security, right? So in that way, I was being that parental force. But when it came to conversations and, they heard me speak spontaneous poetry. They heard me make up stories because they wanted original stories. I played with them in their imagination to make stories with me. I do a line, you do a line kind of thing. So that wasn't persona. There's times when there is persona just because of the regulatory of stuff, but it never took the place or made up for the heart to heart. And I believe that's the reason why now we're peer to peer. And as my mother would say, I'm glad I raised my children so I would not mind obeying them. Now my kids tell me things. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. You said, Mom, you're not supposed to be carrying that heavy stuff. I put it down. Okay, you got it. I can obey them because we have a relationship. It's a relationship. It's not a persona. Now I see them go through some of their personas. I see it, but I still see that spark of divinity. I know the them, the who that they are, because I've experienced it. And I never wanted my light to put out. And I always wanted to cultivate a space that heart to heart, they could know their light in themselves, in the environment that I choose to be. Everybody don't get my light. Everybody don't get it. Am I in a persona when they don't get my light? I don't know what that is. I don't know if persona could really relate to that. Sometimes I have to be a defender of the light.
Can your light make it through your persona?
I fight for the light. I stand for the light. And if anything threatens my light, then I have a right for boundaries to safeguard my light.
Mm.
Matter of fact, I damn well better. The world didn't give it to me, so I'm not going to let the world take it away. And I'm thankful for oases like this, that my light can just be my light.
Yeah, where your light is received and loved
Yeah, hell yeah.
and nourished.
Yeah. And I get light and I get warmth and I get gigglies and googly wahs and dancing over
Exactly.
rainbows. And
We Craig approves.
I am a little leprechaun dancing over the rainbow. I am a little leprechaun showering with silver and gold. Jesse,
Good
your
morning, Carol.
eyes and your face and your expressions. It's just like you're like the DJ. You're like the spiritual DJ. You're like, ooh, let me put a little of this in there. Let me put a little bass over here and let me do a little squicky, squicky, squicky here. I see you working.
Mm, thank you.
Thank you for your energy of giving us a place to honor the space here. Thank you.
Thank you for honoring it. A space where we can be, we can try new things on, try them out, and know we're safe because the others, those that are listening, are putting down their judger, putting down that prover. And it's as we listen, we're checking ourselves. We're assessing, measuring ourselves as, oh, is that expansive thoughts? Is that limiting thoughts? Am I supporting? Am I seeing through the genius? Just practicing, noticing, being attentive to our own structures, the own structures that are keeping us from our greatness, from our genius, from our gifts, from our truest expression. And when we can do that together, oh, it is a light that begins to see what's possible in the world.
I think in the past maybe 3 years, I've done more with the immeasurable than I have with that which has been measured. That's getting acquainted with limitlessness without even the expectation of, well, I'll put it this way, having life and living it more abundantly. In that which is not even required to be measured. I used to frame it as I have more with less, and the less is that which I have measured by, and the more is what I experience the abundance of life by. That scripture comes to me. What is it of man to have abundance and riches on earth and lose your very soul? And I never was really a material type of a person, but I have more. I have literally lived more. I have literally had more abundance of my heart with having less of those things that could be measured. And it's the love that I have in my life. The the acquaintedness with geniusness, the honoring of how I'm divinely made and recognizing that in other people too. And I think I've always had that ability to recognize it in others. I was um, a special ed teacher for a long time, and it would really angst me when people would try to um, cast my students into limitless, into being so limited, minutely limited. It would bring up such a professional rage in me that I would professionally war against them that define my students as those that shouldn't participate in things. And I couldn't miss staff meetings because they were planning things without the consideration of inclusion. But I had to war for that inclusion. And because of the law, they had to recognize it. But from their hearts, they didn't recognize it. But they got to the point where if I was in the room, it was going to be recognized. So I had to make sure I was in the room. But my students, they even the most troubled child, my heart, just it was the energy of telling them, and reminding them who they are and what they are and the goodness that was in them. And I knew it broke my heart because sometimes they would not get that from anywhere else. But it's like I had to reach into them. And I wasn't as concerned with their brains as I was their heart. I had to get to their hearts first. It's like I had to go in with my whole hand and just like reach into their heart and just hug it, and tell them that they were somebody and that I saw them. and that they mattered and that they counted. And not because of the person that they sat next to, and not because of the clothes they had, and in spite of their mother being a drug addict, or in spite of them just cussing me out 15 minutes ago. It didn't matter. They had to know that if they never experienced it any other time, that they were loved. And they were genius. And if nobody else understood them, it was other people's ignorance of them that they did not be curious enough to know who they had the opportunity to be in the presence of. And of course, administration did not honor my teaching tactics because I told them first you have to nurture, then you can teach. Before you can teach, you've got to learn. You got to learn who this person is. Then we can have a collaboration between minds and hearts and teach and exchange. I used to tell my students, you teach me how to teach you.
I always wonder who's teaching who.
We're learning together, right? The Bible says a little child will lead the way. We learn from
Well,
children.
exactly. Well, exactly.
Mhm.
That's my point. The thing
Mhm.
is, it's very easy to get caught up in this teacher student, that assumed relationship, that assumed role relation,
Mhm.
instead of realizing that the real teaching goes on as a cooperative venture.
Like there's something
Like
on my
the
heart that
learning is a co-creation, right?
it is. It is.
And we try to, our society tries to fit it in that box, in that student teacher box that none of us fit in, and that learning doesn't fit in.
It doesn't. Right. Like right now, I have something that I want to talk to one of my daughters about. But I want to make sure that I am not perceived in the conversation like I'm coming at them to judge or to attack or to ridicule or anything like that. That I am not automatically put in a parent role where the parent judges or knows all things. So I'm studying right now because it matters to me how this goes, how I can just be and make sure I'm being and received heart to heart with the right intentions. But still, I have a responsibility to have this conversation because if I don't offer them what I have, then they won't have it to work with. But the choice is always there, no matter what their choice is. I love them through it because I can't live their life. I can't, and I don't want to. But I can't let them not have the information of wisdom and the experience of my years, and I not offer it to them. That's the heritage. That's the true heritage. what is the legacy that we leave? And 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 who am I to withhold that?
What role would they receive it best from?
I think it's a little bit of a combination. I think um, peer to almost peer to peer, but yet with you know how you add vanilla to a cake, with just
Mhm.
enough vanilla in the batter of parenthood. But not authoritative parenting,
Mhm.
Yeah.
more collaborative.
I think what's here is in that domain, the role of that domain is part of mixed in with it. Because I heard a lot of knots in your roles, like a knot, a knot, a knot. And what was missing was what role it does come from their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
One that settles you with your intentions, like that's the one I'm going to go into. And that's part of the attention, the awareness that creates the tension that allows it to break through how you want it.
Mm-hmm.
It gives it the best chance.
Yes, I feel like I'm in that process of knowing what I don't want it to be, so that, which is perfectly timed in this conversation, so that I can see what I do want it to be and come from the intention of what I want. But if I don't intentionally feel and think this thing and let it be in me first, it could go all kind of ways. So I want to make sure that I'm coming from the intention and not from all of the other stuff that could jump in there and throw it off kilter. So like that stuff you do with us when you're sitting here, I need to preliminarily do that before I have that conversation.
Yes, it's imagining is conceive it, believe it, achieve it. And it's in the silence, yeah, sitting in the silence is conceiving it means, oh, how do I want it to look at the end? How would I know it was successful for both of us at the end? What would it feel like at the end of that conversation? Because there's tension right now, current reality now, there's tension going into it. But when we can be clear, put attention on the end of it, then we pull that back to where we are, where the tension is now. When we let it go, it's like, oh, what do I need to do? I can sit in that end result, and when I sit in that end result, the obvious will show up. That's tension. That is attention. That is intention. That is creating tension rather than it happening to us. And as simple, that's as powerful as we need to be. We just need to believe in that tension, in that process, believe in our conception, believe that, and then believe in the action, the obvious, because that obvious action will go against what we think, the normal way, the expected. the taught, the learned, the experienced, it goes against it sometimes, if not most of the time. And I know you know that.
Yeah, but still worthy of the conversation to anchor it in.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
There will be a day when that is just the obvious. And that's when we wouldn't have to talk about it again. Because from that point of view, you can see how judger, prover, validator, blamer doesn't work. Because
Right.
that is not aligned with the outcome that we intend.
So I know my intentions, but sometimes a defense can come up because because of personas that they may or may not have experience of what a parent is, right? Not just me as a parent, but parenting and parents.
Mhm.
And children just have a natural, um, almost right and necessity to rebel against parents. And so while everything is hunky-dory, everything is hunky-dory, but when an issue comes up that to be addressed, then it can be, oh, are you attacking me? Do I have to be defensive? Do I have to be that rebellious child? So um, I think some of that still like comes up. And so it's my intention to circumvent that and give attention to the end result of my intention. So it's really making sure, like, you know how you could go to your parents and something. You don't want to go to somebody when they're in a bad mood, you know. So you want a certain atmosphere or a certain vibration to be in existence, so that there has the best opportunity for reception. Like I wouldn't speak to her when she's around her friends. That's some other stuff is going on. So it's just creating the right time where the right vibration has the best opportunity to be received.
That's prudence, respect, and knowing that and anticipating, oh, that will come up. And if it does, see, that's tension. And it's like they're looking for some response with it. It's like, oh, letting it go, acknowledging it. Oh, that's not the intent. Yeah. It's when we engage with that defense.
Mhm. You're right.
Just let it go by. Mhm.
Mhm.
I understand. And you can see it so clear. You can see, oh, that's what the genius needs. Because the defense is just protecting the heart. we can notice tension is in everything. We can direct it for what we want it to be. We can only direct ours. We can be compassionate, kind, and curious about others. Thank you for sharing your serious, important, valuable situation so that we can learn from it, learn with it, learn together.
This is real stuff. It's, it's not something you just, like some people go to church, but they don't live what they learn. This stuff is real. You gotta, what is the sense of it if you don't live it?
It is how to live.
Mhm.
And when you see it that way, you see you can direct it, you can create it. You see the tension, you see how asleep I have been. How unaware, how ignorant. I've been about structure, about tension, about creating, but no one else really knows it either. Yet everyone will tell you how. And the secret is only you can tell yourself how. The structure that we share, we learn together from the structure. The structure's there, the tension's there, seeing it's there, but each person has to do their work with it. So here we lay out the fundamentals and so that you may be able to see the specifics. Good morning, Mona. Welcome.
Morning. How is everyone this morning? I've been listening in on YouTube.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for diving in, Mona.
One of the experts in structure and tension, observing attention.
I had a lot of tension over the weekend.
That doesn't I make up, that sounds more like a problem solving tension, more like pressure tension, not flowing tension.
It was pressure tension. My niece passed away.
Sorry.
It's okay. She was a good girl. And when I got the call, my sister was like, her tone of voice, when we
Mhm.
dive into intuition. I knew her tone of voice was like she really didn't want me to come.
Hmm.
And I had a choice whether or not I could go.
Hmm.
And I pretty much chose not to go. My dad had a fit. He was like, "You need to make up with her." And I said, "No, I really don't need to do that." And I had two other people pressuring me about this. And I felt like in my gut and in my heart and my head that I made that right choice.
Hmm.
Because I didn't want a scene created, and I knew that she would create a scene. I knew she was in her ego. I knew she was in a lot of pain, and I knew that whatever would be said would not be the appropriate thing for what was happening. But I stuck to my guns, and there was a lot of pressure that was not my stuff.
Mhm. Oof.
And other people were expecting me to take on their stuff.
Hmm.
And I held firm.
Hmm. How do you feel at the end of it?
I feel okay because I didn't disrupt the memories that I had of her when I last saw her. And that's what I wanted to keep in my mind. I didn't want to have a memory of a family that was not getting along in a place where they should have been. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. I sure do.
Didn't want that to be my last memory. And I know that she was there
Hmm.
because I talked to my dad. He went. He said that when he passed her casket that he touched her hand and he felt something. So I know that she was there. Her presence was there and she wouldn't have wanted that.
Mhm. Ooh,
And
I send you big love for that. That was a
thank you.
hard decision to stand in,
Yes.
but it
Not-
wasn't as hard as it would have been if you went standing affirming other people's stuff instead of standing in your truth. So
yes.
I send you big love for acknowledging that. That's where is the power.
Yeah.
And it really exuded more compassion for the whole situation
Hmm.
by standing in your truth.
And the weird thing was my dad really didn't understand what I was doing. And I don't know if it's because he's old school, what I would call old school. Uh, did I break the family rules by doing that, according to him?
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
a lot goes
Outside
into
pressures,
that.
outside tensions. You pet expectations are a huge tension creator.
Yes.
And ones that we have a really hard time seeing out of because they just pull us towards one direction, one truth.
And then when you
Whether
talk about it from a church perspective, I would
Mhm.
talk about it from a Christ-like perspective. It would not have been Christ-like behavior to go there and have a scene. That would not have been living along, that would not have been living that way. That would not have been walking the walk, walking the talk.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you look at
You-
from several different aspects, they all line up together.
Mhm.
Mhm. You were more present by not being physically there. You held more love by not being physically there, even at the cost of being sacrificed and ridiculed. But you held out for the greater good. God bless you.
Mhm. And yeah, important that I heard, and you said it's not mine.
Mhm.
Those are the hardest ones to see.
Because to be honest, I cannot imagine outliving your child.
Yeah.
That's got to be hard for her. The thing that's even hardest for her is a few years ago, she's learning to set boundaries. And she set boundaries with her daughter, and she hadn't had contact with her in like 5 years. So I cannot imagine her pain. I cannot imagine what she's going through. And because she did this boundary thing with me a few years ago, she made a choice, and she wasn't able to have a sister that she could have had. And that was her choice. And when she did sort of, in a way, try to reach out, she couldn't have that because she wasn't ready. And I didn't want to create more angst. And that was a super hard decision to make.
Do you love her?
Oh, immensely.
Does she know that?
Yeah.
Good. Can she come back anytime?
Yeah. But she's not
Does
ready.
she, does she know that? Well, how are you to say? How are you to judge?
Her tone of voice when she called about the funeral told me she didn't want me there. And it just told me she didn't want me there.
Yeah.
And she also threatened to call the police if I showed up.
Mhm.
So that was
Understood.
2 things. And I just didn't want to cause a scene.
Understood. Thank you.
So, and I could have gone, and I could have,
Yeah.
but just not in me.
Yeah.
And I think at one time I would have gone just because I could, and I wouldn't have cared.
There you go. Yeah. That's another way that we can look at our decisions to say, oh, what would am I before I'm aware, before I see this, before I'm putting attention on it, putting it in my choice? What would the old self, what would the old patterns done?
What is the unresolved pain?
things have really changed since my mom died 8 years ago. Things have really changed since she married the man she married. She's kind of done a little bit of, I don't know how to express this. She's done some trimming of the people she has in her life these days.
Hmm.
And her circle of friends and family is very small.
And some people are in her circle and some people are not in her circle. And you're not
Exactly.
in her circle.
No, her daughter was not in her circle either. She had some pain around that. I
Sounds
think
like
that
she
was,
made some. Go ahead.
I think that was a part of her passing a little bit. Because she missed her mom. I would never tell my sister that.
If it's true, she knows.
I think she knows. I would never say it to her. I would never tell her.
Sometimes we make decisions that they serve us in the moment, but they don't serve us
That's
over
not one
time.
that would, that's not one that would serve anybody at any point in time. Because the daughter that my sister buried, she did not know. But a lot of people knew her and knew a person that my sister didn't know. And I kind of feel bad for her for that. I just feel bad for her on a lot of fronts. And really, the only thing that I can do is pray for her.
When I say that sometimes we make decisions based on what serve us in the moment. I'm not saying that it's not decisions that aren't regretted, but we don't have the courage to say I'm sorry. So we kind of stay stuck. And a lot has to be let go of in order to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I did something wrong. Sometimes people just dig their heels in further and just stay in that decision and the results of that decision. But when Jesse said, does she know that you love her? And does she know that she can come back at any time? Sometimes we need to be reminded because something has her under an influence that does not affirm that she's loved and already forgiven and can always come back. I'm feeling a lot of pain in your sister right now. And she doesn't even know how to breathe her way through it. So she just stays stubbornly where she is because she just doesn't see the door. And she doesn't even know if she can go through the door because she doesn't know what's on the other side. So sometimes we need to be reminded that there's love on the other side.
I see. This is probably the wisest advice that I have heard in a long time. That she needs to be reminded. And I think I have to find a way to remind her.
In my spirit, I'm getting a card. Just a simple, gentle card. Card that says, I love you, I miss you, I'm here. Ooh, you know the Honu prayer?
What her,
It's,
Hobo,
yeah, the Hawaiian prayer is about 4 phrases.
yeah,
Do you know that?
yes, I do. I
Yeah,
haven't listened to it in a long time.
yeah. That is so powerful. If I remember all the lines, um, I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please
I
forgive
forgive
me.
you. Yeah,
Mm. I have to go. I'll leave you with big love.
thank
Bye,
you.
Cindy.
Peace.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I am honored today.
I am honored. I'm humbled and I'm honored. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for your share.
sharing.
Thank you for sharing. If you hadn't shared, I wouldn't have felt brave enough to share today.
Wow, it's amazing.
Wow.
Big,
Big love, little Cindy.
big love, little Craig.
I honor you being brave, Mona. Honor your braveness, your brave heart, your good heart.
Thank you.
We started with tension,
Yeah,
tension to tension. It's a practice, it's a skill, it's over and over and over again. And as we go over and over again, what we begin to notice is there's 1, 2, or maybe 3 things that really trigger us. Sorry, there's like just a couple of ways we are triggered. There's a majority, there's most of the time it pulls us this way. It's like our default pattern. And as we examine it, we look into it, we realize what we really want is on the other side of that. It's through it. It's not that expression, but it's the other side, the other side of that expression. The anger, the frustration, it's through that is where the love and joy exists. But if we're not aware of that tension, if we're not aware of that default, we'll just keep playing that same tune, that same majority, that same pattern again and again and again, expecting something to change, wishing that it would, unaware that it won't. That's the important tension. Is it pulling me or am I resisting it? That's the only two things resistive tension tells us. Is it pulling me, compelling me? Because it only pulls and compels to the future. And when we fight, resist, push against, we're always looking backwards. So attention to that split moment, that moment of response, that moment of react, that moment that something out there triggers us. In that simple moment, that subtle moment, we either default to our normal or we see it, observe it, notice it, and try something different. And when we try something different from the heart, acknowledging our light, our genius, our truth, our love, and that for other people, for ourselves and for other people, do we change? Do we see a new pattern? Do we start building a new pattern, a new joy, a new life, a new passion and purpose, new spaces that were never existed before? That is creative tension. That's what we learned today. What did you learn today?
I learned, I was reminded of the best way to say I'm sorry. Even if I don't know what I did, I learned the best way to say I'm sorry.
Even if you didn't do anything, huh?
Yeah, sometimes you offend people and don't even know you do it.
Love you, Mona. You have a huge heart.
Sometimes you say a sentence one way and people hear it an entirely different way.
Mhm. Oh, it's guaranteed. It is guaranteed, Mona. What was. What is.
Yep.
Anything closing, Craig, Mona? Anything closing here? All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing life, situations, tension, experience, being a demonstration, being change, shaping change, choosing change. Bravely, courage. It's easier just to keep it the same. Giving attention to the default. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, you too, Jesse. Big love. Big love, Mona.
All right, Jesse. Bye, Craig. You guys have a great day too.
Bye, Mona.